inviting you to join us each Monday at 9 a.m. for feedback.
A positive image production by Hood Research.
Encourage others to tune in each Monday on
Comcast Detroit, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, watch WHPR TV Network anywhere.
and take us along with you. Feedback, feedback, feedback.
It's you liberals who have lifted them up, Howard.
Paul, you conservatives make a mistake. You can't afford to strangle hope in people. Without hope, people become dangerous.
No, Howard, you liberals have let them invade our society. You give them jobs, political jobs.
Paul, you missed the point. It's only the smart ones we move up.
That makes it even worse.
No, we have to move them up. If we leave a smart one in the ghetto, he might develop into a leader against us. But if we raise him up into white society, we neutralize him. He feels compelled to try to act like us. He loses his identity and his racial anger, if he has any. He becomes alien to his brothers. They realize he sold them out, and they grow to hate him. He becomes worthless to them and safe for us. No, thank you. In fact, in his love for the creature comforts, except for his color, he's become one of us.
And we are all the way live, and happy Monday to all of you out there. Thank you for tuning into Feedback, a positive image production by Hood Research. My name is Theo Broughton, co-founder of Hood Research, and my co-host.
The BD, and we welcome you to the program.
We thank you so much, so much. And we had such a fantastic weekend, as a matter of fact. I just want you all to know that those of you who had thought about coming to the Hood Research meeting and didn't, you missed a grand old time. And for those of you who were there, know what a grand time we had. I had a speaking engagement on Saturday as well, which went very well. And there was some music there. There was a gentleman who was a jazz guitarist. He did a good job. I want to join the hair doctor in congratulating the school board member, Wanda Akila Redmond. She did the most, what's a good word? Stupendous. Is that a good word? Job on this TV show that she was on. And it was regarding the issues with the Detroit public school system. She defended the school system in a fantastic way. I was so proud of her and the job that she did. I want all of you to know that was wonderful. So I will get an opportunity to talk to her and tell her that. But the BD, the candidates that are running have a good opportunity to attend the Hood Research meetings and share their opinions and their platforms, and the attendants have an opportunity to ask their own personal questions of the candidates, and that went very well. I need to let everybody know that once a month the Tuskegee Airmen are having a fly-in where the children from I guess it's 8 up to the age of 17 have an opportunity to actually fly with the Tuskegee Airmen. And that takes place at the Coleman Young Municipal Airport, also known as the City Airport on the east side, 94 in Connor. And that took place this past weekend as well. And the opportunity for young people to actually touch a plane, to actually sit in a plane, can spark the just the thrill and the idea and the thought that they could actually be a pilot. They could be a navigator, like Mayor Coleman Alexander was a navigator. And he, of course, was a Tuskegee Airman, as some people may not know. And this is an opportunity right here in our city for our young people to get to go and touch and see. And this past weekend, they also had, what do they call those little things? Remote control planes that fly around and create havoc. and
Drones.
drones. Yes, they had drones there, and the persons who were at the airport had an opportunity to see and touch and make a little drone fly around the airport. So that was something as well.
There was a, I guess it was on one of the news stations, but they showed
Yes.
a young girl who was in a wheelchair. I guess she was in an accident, and they
Mm-hmm.
told her she never walked in. She was still in a wheelchair at that time, but she was one of the people that was at the Coleman Young Municipal Airport, and they actually, made the adjustments so they could pick her up and put her in the plane. And she actually
Oh,
went up and flew it. And even
and
though I guess the nurses or whoever told her she was, she said, "I am going to walk." But she said
mm-hmm.
she had always been interested in aviation. I think here a child under 10 years old, and then for her to be exposed to, and one of the things I like that you said, and I think it's important for all of our viewers, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, to expose the children to these things, because as you said, once you expose them to it and for them to get to be able to touch and feel and experience it, you never know
Mm-hmm.
what that will
Lead to.
lead to
That's right.
exactly.
Right.
So and that particular story, and she was an African American child, by the way, but that really touched my heart just to see the even though she's wheelchair bound, just the look in her face, just to be able to be at the airport, that meant
To
everything to me. She
participate.
was my daughter at the time.
Wow. That's some of the good that's being done by the Tuskegee Airmen. That is a wonderful story. Now, I know you had some other announcements, but just before getting to those, I want all of you who tuned in to know that we thank you for helping to sponsor this program that comes on every week at 9 a.m. for an hour. And for those of you who have tuned in who are interested in helping us sponsor the program, please know that we ask that you make your check or money order out to Hood Research, or if you prefer, you can make it out to WHPR Broadcasting Company. We don't have any objection to that. But what we do ask is that you mail it to us, and that's the Hood Research at P.O. Box 4416. That's P.O. Box 4416, Detroit, Michigan 48204. Detroit, Michigan 48204, so that we can make sure that it gets credited for this program. And I have to say good morning to, man, I mean, it's just so many folks, and it was just great. I had a good time. I want to say good morning to Michelle, and good morning to Vera and Barbara, and to Ron, and to Roy, and to Tom Barrow, and Hassan, and geez, who else was out there? There were so many who were there. To Betty. Betty came out this past Saturday. She was so excited. She enjoyed the meeting, and I was very happy to see her there. And Katrina was there. And good grief, who else? Oh man, thinking about so many folks. You want to say good morning to,
And
as I think.
I'd like to say to one of our favorite people, lifetime Hood Research member, Brother Errol Griffin, Brother Les,
Hmm.
also Sheila R., Cheryl D., Ruth Ann, Jackie, my neighborhood street warrior activist, getting all the children together. Appreciate you. She's always providing me with information. And again, we always ask that you give. Let everybody know that we're on. Let them know to have pen and paper handy. So share it with your relatives, family, neighbors, co-workers. You can't do better than WHPR TV 33.
Absolutely. Got to say good morning to Sam, another lifetime member as well. And he tunes in also. So, anyway, well, we'll get to the callers, and then you got some announcements to
Okay.
make. Mm-hmm.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. Would you share your name, how you're viewing us, what city, please?
Good morning. It's Tim from Detroit, watching on 33.
Thanks for calling.
And I was listening to you talk about yesterday, Sunday's event, rather, the Tuskegee Airmen show.
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
I saw that interview with the little girl. She was one of the shooting victims shot while riding
Yeah,
her
that's
bike
what
a
it
few
was.
years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was
Mm-hmm.
quite happy to experience
To
that.
be, yes, yes. And it's wonderful when we can do those kinds of things for our children, including all of them, as opposed to a child in her temporary condition, I want to say, having to sit on the sidelines and watch. She
Yes.
actually got a chance to participate.
Thanks for taking taking my call.
Thank you for calling.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. Would you share your name, how you're viewing us, what city, please?
Good morning.
Turn the TV off.
I just did. Good morning. Just
What?
last
Hey, how are
week.
you doing? Happy Monday to you.
Happy Monday. I hate to call with bad news all the time, but your listeners, as well as who have researched me, to look up naturalnews.com. Naturalnews.com.
Natural
And
news. Uh huh.
naturalnews.com.
Okay.
And in their articles, this gentleman is showing us and telling us about scientists that did mass cover-ups on vaccines that lead to autism in our black children. They only target blacks, of course. Massive cover-ups targeting predominantly blacks. And they also have the cancer industry is a predatory business as well.
Oh
And
yes. Oh
so, once
definitely.
again, as far as I'm concerned, this constantly confirms to me how people need to also look up King Alfred's plan, because anytime to wipe out a population, the best way to do it is the way they're doing it already, which is through the medical, food, and the educational industries. But
Mhm.
just for your listeners to look it up for themselves, there are
Okay.
scientists that's already confessed to the mass cover-ups and how these white industries are targeting blacks.
Uh,
Well, for to add more genocide to our
Right.
population,
Right.
we got to wake up the people. I'm telling you, we need to pull them out of these schools that they're not going to learn them anything but how to become, prisoners
Yeah.
further to be in a modern prison plantation.
Right.
So, as far as I'm concerned, we're on a big plantation, modern slavery going on, and we're being dumbed down, numbed down to support our own demise and our own genocide. We gotta have to
Sly.
do a serious business of waking up.
Right.
Sly, I get
Okay.
a question for you. Is that the, because I believe I saw that same video where the man started off speaking about the Flint water system, and then
Yeah, he also talked
right,
about the Flint water. He said that was a deliberate and massive
right,
cover up as well.
right.
And he also said in D.C., they went after a black population in D.C. So that's why you can look it up yourself, naturalnews.com. And he's a white guy. He says, I'm a white guy, and I'm telling you, they don't do this to white kids. So, once again, like they're spraying us with chemtrails. We don't know if those chemtrails are causing a lot of violence and a lot of mental health issues within our community.
What number is that?
So the list goes on, the travesty and the evil that the assaults that's being done to poor black and brown. Thank you for taking my call, and I love you all.
Thanks for calling, Sylvia.
Thank
That is so true. But in an effort to destroy our people, even in Flint, even if they happen to destroy a few of their own, doesn't matter. They will kill off a few of their own to get many more of our people caught up in their death trap.
And I actually saw that video interview, and he's a scientist in the laboratory. He was actually in the laboratory when he was doing the presentation, which was about maybe 6 or 7 minutes long. And what got me, particularly what she said, because like she mentioned D.C., and he had mentioned other cities, and we know that outside of the Pentagon, the White House, and the congressional buildings, it's predominantly black neighborhood. Probably because we thought if we were closer to government, maybe we could have a louder voice. But there's slums, plenty of slums around that surround the government's capital. So it was a very interesting thing that he said. He says, and I agree with him. He's putting himself at risk because other Caucasians who are not of the like mind of him, who are just down to earth human being and care about people, would ostracize him in some way, just make his life hell for telling the truth, but I appreciate people who can come out and tell the truth. He says, "Look, I put myself at risk, but something in me won't let me just let this stuff go because this is what I do for a living. I'm a chemist. I'm a
Right.
scientist." It's sad, but that's where we are.
The other thing that's kind of interesting is Washington residents have taxation without representation, and they have local, government, the mayor, and all of that, but they don't have senators representing them or anything, and they're fighting to have representation now, which is kind of interesting. Um, okay, go ahead.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. Would you share your name, how you're viewing us, and what city, please?
Hey, this 6-4. I'm on 33 looking at y'all.
Thanks for calling.
And Didi and Theo, I was just thinking, like it's an attack on humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Period. You know what
Okay.
I'm saying? Let's just call it what it is. It's an attack on humanity.
Population
Period.
overgrowth.
Exactly. And when you look at who's the largest in population, that's who you start with first.
Mm-hmm.
We are the largest in population still in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
The greatness of black people have persisted in spite of the Tuskegee experiment, in
Mm-hmm.
spite of gang relations, in spite of the drugs selling and the taking. In
Mm-hmm.
2016, black people are still around.
Mm-hmm.
And it appears we ain't going nowhere. So it appears deliberate because by default we're the largest populace.
Mm-hmm. True.
And also by default we are one of the populace who poor uses certain doctors and doctors who are employed by certain systems.
Mm-hmm.
Like the white guy said, this don't happen to us. Case in point, not we, the average black person subscribe to the black church, and we would say we're Baptists.
Mm-hmm.
The Catholic, the average Caucasian may subscribe to Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Thabiti, you and I don't know what that's like. We don't know what it's like to be a Catholic
Not me.
unless you live with one or one shared what it's like. And that guy was so right when he said this don't happen to us. Because when they have their babies, you're not in that room. You don't know what inoculations they're not allowing their children to have. Because if we know one thing about them, they are advocates for their children. And they want in on everything you're going to do with their children. We assume that they get the same inoculations our children get. We assume when their children are born, they get shots in this and that and third too. But under the Catholic banner, it may not be so. It may be, and I know for sure, it's a whole different entire process. And I'm going to end it with this, Beatty. Here's the process of that. In the mind of the Catholics, the Pope is their God on earth. The priests are his little gods. So if you had a mindset, say like if you are a pedophile, which statistics show that is high in the suburbs, a father creeping in a little boy room, daughter room, that is high in the suburbs. Those numbers are high, but they don't get released because they tell it to the priest. And through the priest, they enjoy religious freedom and protection. So if you leave out this booth and he told you what you did was fine, don't worry about it, just try not to do it no more, in your psyche, you will leave that booth with the feeling that I've been exonerated, which makes it that much easier to go back to what you just did because you have someone who will literally, in your mind, is pardon you for the things you are doing, and it's not going to make it to the police because the priest is not only he's a priest, Theo, but if I molest my daughter and I subscribe to Catholicism, I'll take her to the priest because he has a degree in psychology.
Mm.
Let me add this
So
to
it's
that.
never going to go to the police
Mm-hmm.
because we will handle it within.
Let me add this to the conversation. It's interesting you to mention that because when I got into the apprenticeship for the construction trades, and as an apprentice, you have different journeymen who will kind of guide you along the road of learning the skills of the trade. But the interesting thing about that 6'4", Theo, is this: that one of the journeymen I had said, Thabiti, you need to be Catholic. He said, because I can go out and drink and gamble and mess around with women and then go to confession and all is forgiven. And that always blew my mind that
What?
he said that. It always stuck in my mind. He said, yeah, all you got to do is just go, as 6'4" indicated, go to the priest. You sit there on one side, he sits on a. He said, we can be forgiven. So it's like you can continually sin,
Wow.
basically, and as long as he says you're forgiven for your sins, you can go right back and do the same thing the next weekend.
Wow.
That blew my mind. I just
That's
wanted to add that.
yeah, that's an
Yes,
interesting
well, that's
attitude.
true.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
very true. But however,
Mm-hmm.
it is a system to envy because done under the right mindset and ideology, your people can accomplish so much under that kind of sovereignty. You understand where I'm going?
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine what the black church could do for black people if we practice religious freedoms the same way?
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought and said that what's set up is a trap, and the trap don't have no name on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's designed for who's ever gonna fall into it or whoever don't see it. But if you're smart enough to see it, then you do the right thing and go around the trap.
Uh-huh. Mm.
And that's something I just want
Wow.
people to think about that.
Yeah, yeah.
There is a way for us to do what we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it has always been in religious freedoms, but we have practiced religion the wrong way. While they're
I agree
practicing
with
it
that.
in church and in their everyday community, everything they do revolves around their church. And before you make a move, you go through my church. So
And
who else you gonna go to? Go to the
Right.
unprotected people.
Yeah.
They ain't got no priests in the black community who would say, well, our archdiocese will withhold X amount of millions from y'all if y'all keep messing with us. We ain't got no system like that. Our pastor say something wrong, they going to shake him up.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you brought that up. Thank you so much for your call.
Hey, thanks
Because,
for taking my call, Theo
oh,
and
no
Steve.
problem at all. The difference that I see is that in the Catholic religion, they have economic practices that far, far, far outweigh the Protestant practices. As an example, they will have a church. People will come, be drawn to the church. Then they will establish an office. They will hire the people in the church. The purpose for the office is to solicit donations. And in soliciting donations, that money is then used to build an elementary school. And now the people in the church, the people in the office, the employees have their children and others in the community going to the elementary school. So now there's another business to hire more of the people in the church, in the community, okay? And because of the fact that they are hiring the people right in the area, they are recycling the money from the church to the office of the school to the employees. Then, of course, the children get older. They go K through 8. Now you need a high school. So the money again is being recycled. And also, they're getting money from the main source, which is the Vatican. And it expands. They got an office. They need more employees. They get more soliciting. And then the elementary school, they get more students. Now the high school, they get more students. And they build a recreation center for the children in the area. They have to hire people there. And then they decide to build something else, say a hospital. They build a hospital. Now they need more employees. So they are drawing people from the area right to their facilities. And that, of course, encourages them to join the church. Now, on the other side, we have the Protestant religions, the Baptist churches. Those are independent businesses. They are independent businesses. And the first church that I am aware of was located on Grand River, and I don't remember the side street, but the name of the church is New Light. They were the first church that I'm aware of that built a senior building. And that was for the members of the church who would have some place to retire to. And they recycled the money to the church. That was a business. They could hire members of the church to work in the senior building that was built behind on some property behind the church. And too few ideas have happened like that with the Baptist churches, where they have come up with businesses that provide opportunities for the church members. And it encourages others to join the church, you know. And sadly, there are some ministers who use the church for their own personal paycheck, their own personal savings account, their own personal CDs, etc. And it just seems that if the what is it called, the Baptist Progressive what is it, Association or something, if they were to work collaboratively in building communities, we would have a stronger unit of black folks.
One of the things I'll add to that, along with Catholics, you have those who practice Judaism. And in each case, as you indicated, the schools, that's the most important thing to me now among all that was said, because they set up their own curriculum as well. They make sure that their students, those who go through from K to 12, are geared with all the right tools that they need in order to be able to succeed, either to run industry or to start industry on their own. And what's interesting is that, again, with Catholics and the Jews, they already have that. It's in-house, so they don't have to worry about somebody outside teaching their children. They take care of everything. If we've had like with Dr. Clifford, I can't think of his last name, who had the Malcolm X Academy. Uh,
Watson. Cliff
Watson.
Watson,
Cliff
yes.
Watson, yes.
Oh, yes.
That was a wonderful thing. Again, my children went there because of my Afrocentric and my ethnicity. I wanted my children to be in an environment where they could see people who looked like them, who had accomplished things throughout history, so that way that they would have that right self-worth, because our children who watch it, mainstream television, etc., they don't get that same opportunity. They're seeing the world through the eyes of every other ethnicity but their own. And then when we are portrayed, we're portrayed in such a negative way. We've got to be the guy that robbed the bank, the guy that was selling drugs, the woman that was on the street walking, because we don't have any say-so in terms of how that's edited. And then when we do have something, it disturbs me that black entertainment television is not owned by black people. The Essence magazine is not owned by black people. I don't
No
understand
longer.
that.
Right, right.
So if I'll just use a quick example, and then we're going to go to our bottom of the hour break. But if I had, let's say, Hispanics or Asians who were running my television set for my people, obviously it's not going to reflect the viewpoints, the experiences, the culture of my people to its fullest. It's going to express their perceived observation of who we are. So if they want to put rap videos on there and say, yeah, well, this is what we see, the African American as, and it sets up this whole dynamic. When people see us, they only see us through the eyes of how somebody else portrayed us,
Yes.
sadly.
Yes, right. Well, as we take this break, when we come back, I want to talk about the black elite.
So stay tuned, and callers, stay on the line. We'll get right back to you after this break.
Paul, you conservatives make a mistake. You can't afford to strangle hope in people. Without hope, people become dangerous.
No, Howard, you liberals have let them invade our society. You give them jobs, political jobs.
Paul, you missed the point. It's only the smart ones we move up.
That makes it even worse.
No, we have to move them up. If we leave a smart one in the ghetto, he might develop into a leader against us. But if we raise him up into white society, we neutralize him. He feels compelled to try to act like us. He loses his identity and his racial anger, if he has any. He becomes alien to his brothers. They realize he sold them out, and they grow to hate him. He becomes worthless to them and safe for us. No, thank you. In fact, in his love for the creature comforts, except for his color, he's become one of us.
We got two callers.
Oh, and And we are back. And thank you so much for tuning in to Feedback, a positive image production by Hood Research. Now, I said before the break that I was going to talk about the black elite. Well, it's interesting that some years ago, I haven't heard it so much recently, but that word was pronounced elites. I don't know where they got the idea from, but anyway, there was an interview that I had an opportunity to listen to this morning, and the African American gentleman who was being interviewed, I came in while it was already in progress, was a teenager in a family with a brother who sold drugs, a father who was a drug addict, and he didn't mention a mother or her condition in any way. But today he is an author and a professor at a university in Baltimore. Anyway, he was saying that he did not want to be involved in drugs, and he decided that he wanted to go to college. And when he came across before and during trying to enter another African American, said, "Hey, bro," and the black guy looked at him, "I'm not your bro." And as a young kid, he couldn't understand that. He didn't insult him, didn't cuss. He was just thinking that in the black community, we should all be brothers and sisters. So as he ran across that type, which he was talking about as the black elite, and how they looked down their nose at him because he was not dressed in a similar fashion. He came from a family that did not have all of that and more. So he felt rejected and began looking at his brother, and then after a time of the brother's involvement, he was murdered. So this young man decided that he would get involved, and he did. And he started selling drugs. And he said, contrary to popular belief, it is not all that is cracked up to be. Speaking of crack, he sold crack and cocaine. But he found that it was a lonely existence, a very lonely existence, not like you see on that show Empire. He said it's nothing like that. And he sold drugs for a while. Then he decided that he didn't want to do that anymore. And he was asked, well, didn't you take drugs? He says, no. He was not interested in being involved in the use of it. He saw what it had done to his father, and he said that wasn't for him either. And over time, he tried going back to college again. And today he has a double master's and is a professor. And he is an author now. And he spends some of his time speaking to our youth, letting them know how it was for him, and warning them that this is not the life that they should pursue. His most recent book is called Cookout, and it talks a lot about the young people in the neighborhood, and how people need to pay attention to our young children and talk to them, and don't allow them to just be on their own and talk to each other, because they will get advice from folks their own age who don't know any more than they know. But it was a very interesting interview. I listened to
And
it.
I'm going to go to our callers, but
Yeah.
I also want to let you know, and we're going to get back to it. There's something called the Boule Journal, and I'll get to it because when you mention elite or elite, then the Boule has been considered the offspring of let's just say how the dominant culture has operated, and then they have that. I don't want to call it the Talent tenth as they call it, but that group of African Americans who work against the interests of African Americans, and they're
Right.
known as the Boule. We're
That
going to go
had
to our
been
callers now.
brainwashed in the other educational systems.
Unfortunately,
Hmm.
hello caller, you're on the air. Would you share your name, how you're viewing us, what city, please?
Yes, good
Good morning, fellow patriots. Comcast 91,
Hi,
Detroit,
Les.
Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
the greatest city on the planet. Uh, you know, African American history is such a diverse subject. We have some scholars that say we were here before the Mayflower, and we have some scholars say that we came on the slave ship Jesus, and we kept coming. And when we say us, we don't expand our history enough to explain our totality of what our experiences is in here in America.
Mm-hmm.
We need to start doing that
Mm-hmm.
because we a lot of the scholars they just hop on this every person came off a slave ship, and that wasn't true.
All right. Absolutely was not.
So we need to start opening up our history books. And I still think about that trip we made up to Battle Creek, Theo.
Oh, yes.
And
Oh.
to see that big statue,
Mm-hmm.
to enjoy the
12-foot
truth.
statue.
I mean, that's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And this we was in the land of what was that? What was the Quakers?
Oh,
The land of
yes.
Quakers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They helped African Americans.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And we need to bring that to our young people attention.
Mm-hmm.
My African American history started at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jewish culture,
Mm-hmm.
Italian culture. That starts at home.
Right.
When you open up, and my mother used to bring in Jet and Ebony, and we used to, in the back of the Jet, you would see who was starring, or what black actors were starring on what television show.
Right. Yeah, the magazines were on the coffee table,
That's right.
proudly displayed.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Black history started for me at home.
Mm-hmm.
We keep
Absolutely.
saying what I teach. Of course, we all know the history. 14 years ago, they took over our school system, and we failed to answer the bell. That's what happened. We
Yeah.
failed to fight for our children, and this is what we get. What we got now, but
Mm-hmm.
we need to, open up our minds and stop. We already know what the problems is. We just need to know how to fix them. And
Right.
the first way to fix them is the home. Make sure the home is a history book like I came from,
Yeah.
where we had his. And
Right.
to me, everybody got in their hand a walking library, pretty much.
That's right.
All
Well,
they
you know,
gotta do
every
is if you want to Google something, I Googled I was telling you the other day, the Johnson County Wars were back in Wyoming territory, where these I guess the cattle association, they were just shooting the settlers down. These were white people they were shooting down. They would go to their farm, shoot them down, and got away with it because they controlled the court.
well, they were doing the same thing that the happened during the Crusades. Remember the Crusaders over in Europe?
That's right,
And
right.
if you weren't
Crusade, that's
Christian,
right.
you were killed.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So it was the same thing.
we need to tell our history in its totality, because
Right.
if we just tell a part of it, like, oh, we all came on slaves, we all were slaves, we all, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
I prefer to be a American, and I want to believe that our family was here before the Mayflower ever came along.
Well, tell me this: do you object to be calling an African American?
I don't. No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I'm African American. I'm a black man in America. I'm proud to be a black man in America.
Well, there are some people who don't want to be called an African American. There's something about the word African that I don't know if it makes them ashamed or what, but there's nothing to be ashamed of to be a descendant of black people who are on the continent of Africa.
And I just want to add this quickly also, and I'm glad that David Rambo and other people, Sly Mack, has also done this on television on Facebook, where they've actually shown cities in Ghana, Nigeria, and other, let's just say, they're actually metropolitan areas in Africa. The only thing we see is the children with the flies on their face and that kind of thing. But they showed some cities in Africa that will rival anything we have here on this continent at all. And the prices were much better. I'm saying significantly better. A house here that may cost $1 million, maybe $100,000 there, with multiple bathroom, multiple bedrooms. So the images that they project, which I like what you said, Les, that the education began at home. It didn't have to, you didn't wait for your child to go there and have somebody else who came from another city, Dearborn, Troy, or whatever, to teach your children, and went right back to Dearborn and Troy without any interest or even any knowledge of our culture. They just went by whatever curriculum was set by. That's why
Right.
charter schools and EAA is so bad, because they set their own curriculum. We don't know what our children are getting.
And parents don't have any input either. But speaking of the Africans and the progress, they have Africans who are billionaires with a B in Africa, billionaires.
That's
But
right.
we don't
And we
hear
got some
about that
billionaires
either.
in America.
Yeah,
So
yeah, not just
to me,
millionaires in Africa, billionaires. I mean,
billionaires.
you know what? Next Monday, if you have a chance to check into that, call in and share some of the information on that. I think that's a fantastic idea that you're sharing about the current history of black folks, not just the slavery portion of the history.
Right.
Okay.
To me, we've come a long way.
Okay.
With people got their foot on our neck, and and there's a lot of us, like me and Tabiti, we don't we don't like people with a foot on our neck.
Yes, right.
We do something about it.
Right.
But
So
some
do you
people,
agree to doing that?
what's
Just
that?
you and anybody tuned in.
Yeah,
Just
we
call
got
in
a lot of
and
people out
share
there
some.
that don't like that,
Right.
second
So you'll do.
citizenship, and
Right.
and don't
So somebody else
don't
online.
prescribe to it either.
Oh,
I never
okay.
to prescribe to
Right.
being a second
Oh,
class citizen.
that's right.
On
And
this
so you're going to
country.
help lift the educational level that some people have. I thank you so much. We
One
got
last thing,
some.
Theo.
Uh,
We always saying we got to have our own.
you're
When
right.
you a city that's 85% black, this is yours. This
a
is
good,
yours.
a good point.
Fight
Good
for it.
point. That's right.
Stop saying that they no. What are you doing to step up to the plate and fight for what's yours?
All right. Thanks so much for
All
that.
right.
All right. Bye bye.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. Would you share your name, how you're viewing us, and what city, please?
This is Burrell,
Thanks for calling.
91 in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make a quick comment about a couple of topics
Sure. Mm-hmm.
this morning, and then what the reason I'm calling in, I'll put that in last. On the educational you were talking about, I'm seeing the same thing that happened to me back in the early 50s, and that they recruited students from the intermediate, they were called intermediate schools then, from the ninth grade into high school, and they selected the highly achieved students to go to the downtown schools that we have, high achievers, CAD, and commerce. And I'm seeing that same thing happening to my great-granddaughter, who is now going to a professional school downtown. I don't remember the name of it, but she graduated as of the second grade. So they take our high achievers and then they train them, they brainwash them to be used against us in their system, those that they can do that too. And they lose connection with their families.
Yeah.
And then the second item is I grew up in a non-denominational church back in the late 40s and early 50s with a woman pastor. So there's some truth in all religions, but as far as I'm concerned, all of these denominations are the traditions of men, what Jesus called them. You know, they make up their own parts of the Bible that they want to select. But the reason that I'm calling is that we need a update on the status of the recall petitions, the drive to recall Governor Snyder.
Okay.
I would like for the people that I have selected to be team participants to continue to be engaged with this. Tyrone was doing the statistics. Miss Perkins was working on the historical. She's a lifetime Detroit resident here. And Sylvia was in the technology, and she's holding up her portion of it. And I'm connecting on the spiritual level.
Okay.
But I want us to continue to stay in and to realize that what man says has nothing to do with this situation. This is a battle against good and evil, against God and the world, the prince of this world, Satan.
Okay. You're
So
welcome.
those that have been commissioned by God, our allegiance is to him and not to anyone else.
All right. Thank you so much for that.
So, and
And if
Deputy,
somebody has any input, they're welcome to call in and give us an update.
Chief Amos, I would like for him to call in. He stepped up to the plate in that political area about the recall.
Burrell.
Yes.
Chief Amos won't call this show. Just so you know.
Okay.
And I have not gone into a lot of detail.
7729
No,
12th
listen,
Street.
listen. Hold on, just listen.
Okay.
Reginald Amos will not call this show because
Okay.
Reginald Amos appears to be on a I don't know what it is, on some kind of journey to try and undermine me and Hood Research.
Oh,
Now,
I
I
hope
don't really
not.
go into it, but since you brought up his name, you have
Only
to know
because he
that
has been
he.
active
Thank you for
in report.
just hold on a minute.
Cut her off, but go ahead.
He has filed a lawsuit in the past against me, against Richard Harrison, against R.J. Watkins. Reginald Amos lost the lawsuit. Reginald Amos lost the lawsuit and has been on some kind of crusade since then. So he will not call this show. But thank you for your call. Next.
And I do think that when we look at the educational point that was made, it's, I don't know, that for me that's always been the foundation of everything. And I've just been a bookworm all my life, so I can't help it. I'm trying to get my granddaughter to be a bookworm as well. But points that she made and Les made about education is such a critical thing because, and I think all of us can relate that. Our parents and grandparents or someone said that once you learn something, they can never take it away from you. It's just that we're not learning the right stuff to begin with. So whatever they take, we don't need it anyway. It's
Yeah, no, that's
useless.
right.
And there's some DPS issues that we're going to get into as well, since the Senate's got one bill, the House has got another bill, and they're talking about they may not pass certain things till November. I mean, they're out of their minds in Lansing, most of them, and those people like Brian Banks and other people who are fighting, Sherry Gay Daniego, they just don't get the same. I mean, obviously, the legislature is controlled by Republicans. We know how that whole system is working in Lansing. So the voices that are of reason, that are prudent and practical, will never be heard. It's tragic, really, that they have this paternalistic thing, which they've had ever since they got to this country. We know what's right for you. So after 400 and plus years, they still think they know better what we need than what we need. If I say I need vitamin A and you keep giving me vitamin D, we got a problem. We'll go back to the calls. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Would you share your name, how you're viewing us? What city, please?
Yes, Sly Saw calling back. I just wanted people to look up the billionaire Byron Allen, the billionaire, black billionaire Byron Allen. And he talked about the charter lawsuit where he's suing Obama's FCC administration because hundreds of billion-dollar contracts go straight to white media, and the cable Comcast pays out about $70 billion.
Right.
None of this money is being given to black media,
Right.
and therefore the images that's being told is by whites. So they describe and demonize and characterize what black people are. So right there is your art of war against your thinking and telling you what to think, how to think, and how to stay at the level that they want to keep you in. Thanks again. It's called The Interview. Dr. Boyce Watkins, the People's Scholar. The People's Scholar, Dr. Boyce Watkins. Billionaire Byron Allen talks charter lawsuit and black wealth. So we need to understand why we're being treated
Targeted.
less than and kept under.
Right. Thank you for that.
That what's interesting about that is, one, they set the narrative, and people who don't do research, but Hood Research does research, but those who don't, believe the narrative that they're given. So sound bites and other clips that they give us, if that's all you feed off of, then the meal you getting won't sustain you mentally. But I mean, I give them credit. It's an effective tool and it's working because you have to look outside the box and don't let them put you inside the box. But we know the fight never ends here.
Right on.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. Would you share your name? How are you viewing us? What city, please?
Hi, this is Beverly Kendall Walker, and I'm watching you on Channel 90,
Hi, thanks for
Comcast, and
calling
True.
in.
And
Thank-
I just want to thank you all for all of your support for the Davis High School, the Tuskegee Airmen,
Oh, yes.
because on yesterday we had a tremendous turnout at Detroit City Airport.
Yes.
You know, it was just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
God is just so awesome. I do believe He's going to turn it around for us.
Oh, I am so glad. You know, I am. It's sad that we have to suffer the shame of the principals who got caught up. But I am very pleased that the principal was one of them and doing damage to Benjamin Davis Aerospace. So now that principal is gone. Thank God.
So it'll come to light. All of it is coming to light. So I'm just pleased. But we
Yes.
still have to be vigilant against the emergency manager. That whole process
Right.
was just damaged. You know,
Right.
They didn't have to go along with what she was recommending.
Yes. Well, tell us now. You have the fly-in on a monthly basis.
Yeah, so on the second Sunday of the month until October,
Okay.
the Tuskegee Airmen National Museum will fly young people from 10 a.m. until 1 o'clock.
Okay. 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the afternoon. You have young people from what age again?
8 to 17.
8 up to the age of 17 will have an opportunity to come to the Coleman A. Young Municipal Airport, also formerly known as the City Airport on Connor and I-94.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's on the second Sunday of each month?
Of each month until October.
Okay, second Sunday of each month until October.
Totally free.
Totally free. That's a wonderful opportunity for our young people to touch and feel and fly the friendly skies. Oh,
And so
very.
Channel 7 and Channel 4, Channel 56 all covered it yesterday.
Oh, okay. Oh,
So,
well, they finally got around to
yeah,
telling some good news.
because of you all, you help us keep it in the forefront.
Well, yeah, we do.
WHPR, you, Theo Brogan, Hood Research, kept us in the forefront. So
Well,
thank you so much.
I believe in the Benjamin Davis Aerospace School, an opportunity for our young people to get a pilot's license before they get a driver's license for a car. And it's an opportunity for them to gain skills that will help them sustain themselves and their loved ones. And you, along with the Tuskegee Airmen, are doing a masterful job
Yes, we're
at putting it before them, despite the dumb stuff.
Just raw energy and raw love, because we know what the power of togetherness can do. Because in the legacy of Tuskegee Airmen, Coleman, Alexander Young, they didn't give up,
Yes,
and so we can't give up.
that's right. Absolutely. Beverly Kendall Walker,
Thank you
one of
so
the
much.
members of the Tuskegee Airmen Committee, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you invite people to come to the meetings?
Oh, yes, we meet every
Okay,
Tuesday,
tell
which
us
is
about.
tomorrow at 1:30 at
Oh,
the
oh.
Detroit City Airport, Coleman, Alexander Young International Airport.
Okay, now that's every Tuesday at 1 p.m.
1:30.
1:30. Beverly Kendall Walker. We must tell people 1 o'clock.
Well, we'll say what.
They'll be there by 1:30.
You know our time.
Okay.
Amen, amen.
All right.
But yeah, we continue to do the job that's necessary.
All right. Oh, thank you so much. Anything else shit going on?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that.
Thanks for calling, Beverly. Hello, caller. You on the air? Would you share your name? How are you viewing us? What city, please?
Karima Gore,
Thanks for
Detroit,
calling.
Michigan. I'm watching on the computer.
Oh,
And I
okay.
usually can't get TV 33, but I found out it was AT&T. It wasn't the the television station. So,
Oh, okay.
I usually try to view every week since I've been retired. But I
Uh-oh.
wanted to come to the meeting Saturday, but I had an orientation at a senior building, and I couldn't make it Saturday.
Oh,
So
darn.
I'll make it next month. I
Okay.
will be there.
All
But
right.
anyway, yeah, I think that they're going to have to start doing forensic audits on all this money because they blame a whole lot on the principals and on the
Yes.
on black people when
Yes.
the state of Michigan took so much money.
Right.
And we need to find out what happened to the money, number one.
Well, we'll
And
keep.
then, in the meantime, the children are the ones suffering. See,
That's
this has
right.
been like a domino effect.
Well, I am.
And, you kind of watch it when they laid off all the janitors.
That's
That's
right.
when the schools start getting,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
They let it go down, so
safe,
they have an
safe.
excuse to say, "Look at that," and we need to take it.
Right,
But I want to
like it's
thank you
our
so much
fault, but it was the
for.
city takeover and the EM
All right.
that laid off all those janitors from the
That
schools, which people
that's
really
right.
they
We're
don't connect
okay.
the dots.
Thank you
Those
so
janitors
much for
used to
that.
come in there
We're at
and
the
they
end of
fix
the.
tiles. They would go
Excuse me.
over
You
just
going on and
cleaning.
on.
They would make sure that
Right.
a building was.
We're at the end of the show now, and I'd like to say at the end, it's not necessary for you to know everything. What is necessary is for you to know how to find what you need when you need it. We at Hood Research seek out as much information as we can to help us all make better informed decisions. Thank you all so much for tuning in and watching us each week right here on WHPR.
If you want to be nothing, do nothing. But the only problem with doing nothing is you never know when you're finished.
Tune in again next week. Peace.
The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions